This spring I want to grow those first delicious creamy potatoes as fast as possible, and I've got a few tricks up my sleeve to pull it off. So today I'm going to show you how to shrink the time it takes to go from planting to harvest from months to a matter of weeks. There's no time to waste, let's get started. Different types of potato grow at different speeds, typically taking anywhere from 10 to 20 weeks to grow. Early season or first early varieties are the speediest of all, and these quick growing potatoes also happen to be the tastiest, with the very finest texture, smooth, almost creamy. So the first step in our quest for a quicker crop is choosing a variety that has been bred to grow really rapidly. Now the first thing I'm going to be planting is Swift, no prizes for guessing its main selling point. And then new to me, a variety called Francis, which promises abundant crops despite being an early riser. Now of course there are plenty of other quick growing spuds to choose from, so do pick one that's right for you. Early season potatoes are often ready well before the danger of any diseases such as blight, and because they grow so fast, you may even be able to get in 2 successive harvests in the same time it takes to grow just one crop of main crop or late season spuds. I bought these seed potatoes from my local garden centre. They're sold specifically for planting and are certified disease-free, which grocery store potatoes aren't. So if you want to guarantee the strongest starts and the healthiest, most trouble-free plants, do start with seed potatoes. They may cost a bit more, but you'll get much better results. These seed potatoes could be planted as they are, but a great way to speed things up is to pre-sprout or chit them beforehand for a few weeks. And the simplest way to do that is just to pop them into a bright, sunny space for about a few weeks. Now, I like to just nestle them into old egg cartons like this. It keeps them nice and stable so they don't roll around. And you'll notice these almost like little dimples, and some have little shoots already. You want to get the majority of those facing up. So just check each one, and they usually have an obvious one that should be pointing up, like that, for example, have those facing upwards. Chitting potatoes is especially useful earlier in the season, while it's still just a bit too cool to plant. It will give you a head start of maybe a week or 2, so the seed potatoes hit the rapidly warming ground running the moment they're planted. And if I show you these guys here, you can see the kind of chits or sprouts that we are after, nice and kind of fat and firm and green. These guys will really race ahead. Another little tip where you've got a couple of shoots is to cut your potatoes into chunks. As long as they've got a shoot, then these will be good to plant. Do this a few days before planting so that the cut has a chance to heal over. While our potatoes are chitting, we can get the soil ready for them. Now it's no surprise that potatoes will grow faster in warmer conditions, with a soil temperature of between 60 to 70 Fahrenheit or 15 to 21 Celsius ideal. So if we're going to grow them early in the season, it pays to warm up the soil first. I'm planting some of my potatoes into containers and others into this raised bed here, which I've had covered with this clear cover here for the past few weeks. Now this acts just like a greenhouse. The sun's rays go in and then some of that warmth is trapped, slowly but surely raising the temperature inside. That and the fact I'm growing my potatoes in a raised bed, which will dry out and warm up quicker than the surrounding ground, giving me perfect conditions for speedier spuds at this time of year. Now, if you're in a warmer climate, you won't have to worry about this. You can just get on and plant. For my container potatoes, I'll be using a mix of all-purpose potting mix as well as some compost, both of which I brought inside to raise up to room temperature to get it nice and warm. Now I get it, not everyone wants to bring in compost into the house, but see if you can find somewhere cosy just to raise things up a bit. For example, a greenhouse or cold frame, or perhaps by placing an old window pane or something over the compost to trap some of those warming rays. With the potatoes chitted and the soil warmed, it's time to get on and plant. But first, let's power up our potatoes by really ramping up nutrition. Potatoes are quite hungry plants, which means they need to be able to access plenty of nutrients to ensure the fastest growth. Now, I've already prepared this bed here by dumping on a good inch or 3 centimetres of garden compost and spreading it out in advance of planting. I'm also going to be adding a few handfuls of this specially formulated organic potato fertiliser. This is slightly higher in potassium, which will go a long way to supporting good tuber development. Potassium, along with the nitrogen this contains, also encourages faster foliage growth, thereby allowing plants to absorb as much sunlight as possible, which can only mean great things for our final harvest. I'm going to plant these potatoes in a kind of block formation, and they're going to go about 16 inches, which is 40 centimetres apart in both directions. Now, planting in a block formation is just easier in a smaller space like this rather than long rows. And then to plant, just make an individual hole for your seed potato, fairly deep if you can, and cover it back over. Nice and easy. Now it's just a matter of watering everything in to set the clock to harvest time ticking. And then for the container potatoes, I'm going in with a 50-50 mix of the all-purpose potting mix and then the good old compost as well. And just fill the tub you're going to plant your potatoes into first, and then we can mix it after. And of course, a little handful of the potato fertiliser as well. Let's get this mixed up. And then in go 2 seed potatoes, perfect for this sort of diameter of container. And now I'm going to cover them and fill up with more of this mix, so we're just over halfway full. And then another 2 potatoes, kind of at right angles so they don't grow into each other. Nestle them in, and then we're going to fill all the way to the top. Now, there's a lot of advice about kind of earthing up or adding more of your mix as the shoots grow bit by bit in layers, but I found that really isn't necessary. Just fill right to the top at the start. It'll just save you a lot of time, and even the potatoes right down here will still find their way to the top, no problem. I'm finishing with a good drink of water. Now, I've actually poured this water a few hours ago and had it indoors to raise it up to ambient temperature. Early in the season, it can be worth pre-warming your water like this so that you don't drag down the temperature of the potting mix when you water. And then to finish, it's on with a layer of straw. Now, straw has a lovely open structure that traps air really effectively, and early in the season that will help to insulate the potting mix to keep things nice and snug, but then as it gets warm in the summer, it'll help to keep things cool. These potatoes are going to go back inside where they can take advantage of the warmth to really speed along that growth. And don't worry, I'll keep them on this tray here to protect the carpet from any damage. I don't want to get in trouble. Now, once the shoots do poke through, I'll move them out into the greenhouse. Don't worry, you don't have to bring them inside. That's no problem. Just keep them somewhere relatively warm if you can, and definitely protected from frost. We've talked about keeping things warmer, but later plantings may need to be kept cooler. Now, the black walls of these containers will obviously absorb a lot of heat. So one way around that, to keep the roots cool while the leaves luxuriate in the sunshine, is to cast shade over the container itself, using shade netting or some sort of cover like this to keep things cooler. Or if you can find one, just source a white-walled pot. Almost all early potatoes are determinate varieties, which simply means the potatoes are produced more in a single layer. And you can find out more about all that in our potato growing masterclass video, which I'll link to below and at the end of the video. For potatoes planted in beds, that means there's no need to hill or earth up, though I may well add a layer of straw a little bit later on, just in case any of the developing tubers make their way to the surface to stop them going green. One thing I will be doing, however, is keeping this cover in place while it's still a little bit on the cool side, just to really hurry things up. All of my potatoes will be kept well watered, as consistent soil or potting mix moisture is really important, especially during tuber formation, to power up the fastest growth possible. For container potatoes, that means giving everything a really good drink until you can see moisture, water coming out of the drainage holes at the bottom. Then walk away and come back a while later to water again, just to be absolutely sure. Now, it really is important to keep the potting mix consistently moist because you don't want to stunt tuber development. If you let the potting mix get so dry that it shrinks away from the walls of the container, it can be really hard to re-wet. So do water consistently. All being well, I'll be enjoying my potatoes in record time this year. To gauge whether they're ready to harvest, just pop a hand in and cop a feel of the developing tubers. Once they're the size of a hen's egg or bigger, then you're good to harvest. Harvesting the potatoes is absolutely the best bit. Dig up your potatoes, or as I'm doing here, simply tip out the container onto a piece of tarp to keep things nice and tidy, then have the absolute unbridled joy of breaking apart the potting mix and going on the hunt for those truly exceptional tubers. I promise you, the first potatoes of the season are the very best, just outstanding. Gather them up and use them pronto, as fresh really is best when it comes to early season spuds. These beauties will be all homegrown within a matter of weeks. I can't wait, and I do hope you are inspired to give super speedy potatoes a go as well. I'll catch you next time.